Well, that escalated quickly. Clearly, the community has a lot of strong feelings about the new OGL. And some people, oddly enough, have really strong feelings about other people raising concerns about the new OGL. There are a few really common misconceptions that people posted on that I want to make sure that I clear up and address because they matter. Multiple people commented sharing some version of, "It'll be okay, I'll just keep using the old OGL." Well, that's kind of the point of why people are upset about this. Wizards is trying to cancel the old OGL, which they have been saying for 20 plus years was not going away. Legalese aside, Wizards of the Coast, the company, set a precedent with their own FAQs and their own language that they used with the community that made people believe that this document was not going to disappear. And yet, if this leak is true, it will be deauthorized. People will not be able to use it anymore. They will be forced to use the updated version, which is a lot worse for creators. And you are free to argue whether or not it's the end of the industry or the end of an era or whatever, or whether creators will be able to survive. But what you can't really argue is whether or not this is good for them. Anytime a business goes from not owing anyone royalties at all and being able to use all their profit for their own future business ventures, suddenly starts having to pay 20 to 25% royalties to someone else, that's not good for their business. It's bad for them. That part is not debatable. Second misconception. A lot of people throw out there, "Hey, why don't you just switch to another system? There are tons of systems out there that are awesome." This is totally true for the players of the game. This is not so easy for the content creators. There are tons of other systems that I have enjoyed playing over the years that don't have anything similar to the open game license that would allow me to produce content that's compatible with their system and also make a profit from it. There may be more out there than I'm aware of, but there aren't many. Apocalypse World is a system that's out there that I actually haven't used before, but that apparently has a really third-party friendly setup. For whatever reason, I'll definitely be looking into them. And if you know of others that are released under their own OGL that's completely separate from the open game license, or that have some kind of Creative Commons language in them, or that just are super creator friendly, then please list those in the comments below because I'm interested in finding out more about them. But that does lead me to the next really common point that people tried to make in the comments, which was, why don't you just move on and make content for Pathfinder or Castles and Crusades or some other game that is D&D adjacent? And the problem with that is that these games were released under the open game license. In their current state, they are just as affected by this policy change, this new version 1.1 OGL, as everybody else. Granted, they may be big enough to get a sweeter deal from Wizards of the Coast, but the same new rules will apply to them, including the clause that says that Wizards can change the policy and all they have to do is give you 30 days notice. And building a business on a contract that the other party can change with just 30 days notice doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I wouldn't want to put my eggs in that basket. There were also tons of comments talking about whether or not Wizards or Hasbro would win a potential legal battle with one or more of these companies that are publishing third-party content and actually have a big fan base like Paizo, Kobold Press, MCDM, so on and so on. I don't know who wins out in all that. I think the likelihood, as I pointed out in my previous video, is that it never actually gets far enough for a court ruling. I've got a feeling these third-party publishers get buried in legal fees to the point where they settle out of court or end up dropping it altogether. I have two more points that I want to make before I close this video out. One, no matter how bad we think that the new version of the OGL is, if Wizards of the Coast would honor their previous statements that the old versions would not be unusable, none of this would be a problem. Wizards has every right to monetize their content however they want to. And if they decide that they want 6th edition to proceed in this way, I'm cool with that. I might disagree with their policies, I might not like it, I might decide to create for other systems, I might decide to whatever, but I'm not throwing this stuff away or destroying it in protest. I have a lot of fond memories wrapped up in D&D and the friends I've made along the way and the campaigns I've run along the way. It's been a huge part of my life since I was 7 years old, playing D&D with my dad for the first time. And the last point I'll make here is, even if this all goes super poorly, there are tons and tons of super creative people who love having D&D or RPGs in general as an outlet for their creativity. And they're good enough at what they do to make a living from it. Even if Wizards squashes all their current business ventures, their creativity is going to go somewhere. Their talents are going to go somewhere. So if there's another company out there that maybe hasn't previously had a super creator-friendly license that was available, now would be a really great time to put one out and take advantage of some of the ill will that Wizards of the Coast is starting to generate in its own community. There are a lot of creatives who are going to be looking for another system to jump to. That is, assuming the leak is true. I still really hope that Wizards backtracks on this and just decides to leave the early versions of the OGL intact, which would mean that I could continue to create 5e compatible materials or 2nd edition compatible materials or OSR materials without the fear of litigation. One can only hope.